time for us to take a look at lesson 722. And the title of this is Another Strategy for Division. As you take a look at the problem that is in front of us, we have the question, how much paint? Well, Atticus wants to know how much paint he will need to paint the fence in his yard. So far, he's used 3/4 of a gallon of paint, but he only covered 2/5 of the fence. Our job is to calculate exactly how much paint Atticus would need to paint his whole fence. There are many ways to approach this problem. You could use this diagram and do some drawing on it to visualize how to attack the problem. I'm going to go ahead and read what is underneath so that we can take a moment and kind of gather together what kind of strategy we want to use, thinking about the fact that we are to use division as we're working through the problems in this lesson. So underneath the diagram it says, Atticus reasons, so he thinks that since he used 3/4 of a gallon to paint 2/5 of the fence, he should be able to write a number sentence to express the idea that 3/4 of a gallon equals 2/5 of the amount he needs to paint the fence, the whole fence. Our job here is to write Atticus's problem and its solution in two different number sentences, one that uses division and one that uses multiplication. So the simplest way to take a look at this is to go back up here, and we're talking about paint, and we're talking about a fence. And we're trying to figure out how much paint per fence. So right there, it tells me that I'm going to divide. And if I'm dividing paint per fence, then the 3/4 comes first. I write my division symbol, and then I take the 2/5 fraction out of the number problem up above. And I go ahead and I think about my strategy that I've learned and practiced in the past about keep, change, and flip. Keeping that first fraction, I write it as 3/4. Change the symbol, the operation symbol goes from divide to multiply. And then I flip the second fraction to make it its reciprocal. When I do the math here, I can go ahead and 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 2 is 8. That would be one way to go about solving this problem. Another way that we can solve this is to do the opposite of what we started with here. We're going to work backwards. I'm going to put my big letter OR for the word or. I'm not going to do any changing here because if I change this to a mixed number, I'm going to have to change it right back into a fraction in order to solve this problem. I'm going to take the answer to my multiplication problem. I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to take the fraction that I started with at the beginning, which is 2/5. And I started by dividing over here, so now I'm going to multiply. And if I multiply this, I get 30. 15 times 2 is 30. 8 times 5 is 40. My answer is 30/40ths, which I can reduce down to 3/4. I went through that kind of quickly. Might want to take a moment, pause the video, rewind it, and listen through again and watch as I solve the problem one more time before you go on to the next part of our lesson. All right, let's move on to lesson 722, number 752. Simplify means many things. In this case, we are solving each of the following expressions. They're expressions because they do not have equal signs yet. I am going to go ahead, and this is a division problem, division fractions. I'm going to rewrite using my strategy of keep, change, flip, and then I'm going to solve this by multiplying straight across. When I take a look at my answer here, the answer is 24 divided by 3, 24 over 3. And I can do this as a mini division problem, and 24 divided by 3 is the number 8. I'd like you to go ahead and solve the rest of these problems for 7-52. Go ahead and pause your video and solve those problems. There are 3 total on this page. There are 3 more at the top of the next page. When you're done solving those problems, rewriting them and solving them, please come back and restart the video. All right, now that we're all back, we're going to take a look at one of these problems up above, because I see that we have a decimal and we are adding a fraction to it. So in order to do that, we're going to remember how we say numbers that have decimals. This would be spoken as 5 2/10. So I can write it the way that I say it as a fraction, and then I can add the 7/10 to that. When I'm doing this problem up here, I want to make sure that I change this so that the second number is changed into an improper fraction. I do that by multiplying the denominator times the whole number. That is 2 times 3, which is 6. 6 plus 1 equals 7. So I put 7 on the numerator position, and then I put 2 underneath, and I multiply that straight across. And then down here, we're going to need to do something similar. We're going to need to rewrite this 3 2/5. We can rewrite that as a decimal number. You can also go ahead and think about 3 2/5. When I'm thinking about making equivalent fractions, I go back to my giant 1, and then this mixed number can become 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. So now I've got 3 4/10, which I can also rewrite as 3 4/10, like a decimal number. And then I can go ahead and subtract 2 75/100. Make sure when you do letter F, you are careful to rewrite it, lining up your decimals. And again, take a moment, pause, restart when you are ready to go on to 7-53, please. For 7-53, the only thing I'm going to remind us about is that when we multiply, we go straight across. Numerator times numerator, and we get an answer. Denominator times denominator, and we get an answer, and we should write that in fraction form. Please make sure that you remember to write your answer to this question at the very bottom, but you can't do that until you solve all of the problems. I'm going to rewrite this problem right here so it's a little easier for you to think about. Sometimes when the problems are not written straight across, it's more complicated to try and find the answer. All right, so that's this lesson for our day of virtual or at-home remote learning, and I will see you back tomorrow. Please make sure you submit your answers in Schoology. Schoology has been having some buggy issues in the mornings, and I know that it's frustrating, but might want to take a moment and See if you can clear your cache, clear your history on your browser. That might be another strategy for helping you to be able to make the Schoology program a little bit more fluid and a little bit more usable for you.